Hello, and welcome to the channel. Today we will be getting near to the end of the side quest that we embarked on to just by coming to one island. Though first, we will end up having to go to 3 Island to finish it all off. Before that, we're hitting 2 Island because what was the first part of the quest besides coming to 1 island with Bill? Why, we had to send a stone to the owner of the game corner on 2 Island. But there's trouble brewing in these small burgs, and we will end up having to be the bandage to soothe all the hurts. Our 12-year-old self. Now, as an adult, this has always really amused me at how often saving the world is left to a child. Anyways, beyond my moment of incredulity over a video game, let's talk about the current story a bit more. There are some stores on 2 Island that will expand after we get into the post-game, but currently, they don't really stock too much. And as I said, there's also the game center here that is currently not operating. This is due to the trouble we shall handle on 3 Island. But before we will be able to begin to deal with this, we are put in the middle of a whole other issue. So remember, we were supposed to be dropping off a stone to the owner of the game center. We can't do that because the game center owner is up in arms and worried about something that's occurring to him. And while we're dealing with that, a whole nother issue pops up. So we've got 3, plates stacked on top of each other at the moment. And again, why are we a child dealing with these problems? The issue preventing us from completing our objective of giving a rock to the owner of the game center is his missing daughter. That's no good, and though young, as a protagonist hero, we must be off to save her. But again, another issue is going to arise before we can go to save her on 3 Island. This other issue will also be occurring on 3 Island. A biker gang has decided to occupy and take control of the town. So who are these toughs? Part of Team Rocket? Some other group? Don't know, and in a lot of ways, I don't really care. I just need to beat them up and save the town, and then begin on my trek to find his daughter. And we're going to finish this video before we save his daughter. We're actually going to finish the video at the path leading into the berry forest where we'll find his daughter to finish the secondary objective before we can give the game center owner the rock given to us to give to him. Now, as hinted at in other parts of the script, I kind of want to talk about the idea of the child savior. We are often put in the role of a young child, in some sense. Usually between, I think, 11 and I think the oldest has been 16 or 17. I honestly can't remember. But I know in Black 2 and White 2, and I think X and Y even, you're supposed to be on the older side of the teenage spectrum. And it has honestly always kind of amused me as I've gotten older over the idea of the hero being a young child. Now, I know it's done somewhat because it's a power fantasy for a young kid to be like, oh, look, I'm about their age and I'm saving the world, wow, right? It's also done in part, I think, because the one of the driving forces behind the games, he would go exploring the woods and stuff around his home when he was about that age. So it's a little bit of a homage to his youth and what the games are kind of based around at first. But as you get older, I'm in my 40s now, and playing these games, I have a lot of fun, but I do find myself as a parent questioning the idea of sending your young child out on such a long trek and then letting them become a hero, regardless of their partner Pokemon. If my young child, I do have a 14-year-old, so she falls in that age range, was told, hey, go explore the world and capture Pokemon for me from some professor, I don't know if I would be like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Go ahead. Every kid should start off on an adventure at that age. I know that it's more common in Japan for younger children to travel to other provinces on their own at that kind of age. And there are some trips that my child takes on their own to visit family. Right? She flies out on her own and goes and visits family overseas. But that's with the expectation that there will be other adults to help provide care and guidance at the locations that she's going to go to. Now, as I said, I understand it might be very much a cultural difference, as in general, from what little I do know of actual Japanese culture, not just based on manga and anime and all that kind of stuff, children are often given errands to go to the store and stuff on their own when they're on the younger side. And we here in the States are often more predisposed to not allowing that to happen. And it's not so much that I think Japanese parents are less concerned or less about protecting their children. I just think that the cultures and perhaps areas where a lot of this kind of stuff would happen are vastly different. I did a lot more exploration myself when I was younger, in my, young teens, 11, 12. I used to go to stores and stuff on my own then as well, than my kids did. And it's not so much a matter of not trusting my child, but a matter of the area that we lived in. Where I lived was much calmer and quieter, and I think it's probably the same way in a lot of these Japanese areas where these young kids go to convenience stores and stuff on their own. I don't think it's a matter of trust and all that kind of stuff. Since I've had children, we've lived on a very high or near to a very busy highway, no matter where we moved to. Whereas even though I lived near to a busy street, my general area was actually pretty quiet and calm. And I also think that we had less of a internet presence at the time, and so we weren't introduced to how scary the world is, due to people gathering in communities, all that kind of stuff. So there's multiple reasons. And it's for all those weird reasons that when I see these child heroes heading off in Pokemon, I'm always like, why don't the parents call them off? And I have, on occasion, when I get to fly, set out to return to home just to see if the parents would say something besides, oh, you look tired, take a nap. They usually don't. I think if my kid was heading out and they had to beat Gym Leader X to get fly, I would probably take them to Gym Leader X to get fly home myself and be like, make sure you fly home. That's every couple days, so I know you're doing okay, because you don't ever call. In fact, I don't think you can call your parents in most of the games. I know it's a little bit of a coming-of-age story and all that kind of stuff, and like I said, it's the child protagonist ideal. And there are plenty of games that have you play in the world of a younger child. Earthbound would be one, where the ingenuity of a child is is kind of what saves the day when the adults fail. But in the world of Pokemon, I'm always surprised at how quickly the adults fail. When they're supposed to have years of experience, stronger Pokemon, all this kind of stuff, than you, as Johnny-come-lately, only been out on your adventure for a week, kid. And it only ruins my immersion of the game when I really consider that prospect. When I do consider that prospect, like I said, it does kick me out of the game for a bit. I have a hard time not so much identifying with the character, as the idea of the character is an idea that's easy to identify with and to see yourself in. You know, you're the protagonist, you're the hero. Everyone imagines themselves as the hero for the most part at some point in their life. And so it's easy to imagine yourself on this grand adventure, catching Pokemon and, defeating people along the way and showing your strength and all. It's not a difficult concept to familiarize yourself with and to put yourself in the shoes of. But as an adult, it's easy to get yourself kicked out of that when you consider that this is the norm for the world, for kids to go on these adventures, but it's still not the norm for a child to save the world by defeating some legendary beast of yore, right? It's just crazy. The whole child protagonist thing is an interesting trope, but it's very crazy. It's why, like I said in I think the last video, I really loved Sword and Shield so much in some ways, because it's recognized that you're a young teen and you are still learning about the world, and that's kind of what your adventure is supposed to do. It's supposed to teach you about the world. So why should you be involved in things that are above your pay grade, so to speak? Should you try to be the ones that go and quell these Dynamax Dems that are out of control? And no, that you're told, hey, look, this is happening, yeah, but don't get involved, we'll handle it. You head to this city and go see about getting your next badge or your next passport stamp or whatever it is. Your next medallion piece. And then you hear about them winning the day. You hear about, Leon and so-and-so winning the day. They managed to defeat the Dynamax Dens that were running amok. And you know that as the child protagonist, you will eventually be forced to interact with this world's changing event and to stop it. But it's not until you are literally forced into it that it occurs in Sword and Shield. Especially unlike Leaf Green, FireRed, which, where you seem to actively seek out Team Rocket to beat them. Oh, they're in the game corner. Let me go down there and beat the crap out of everyone and save the day. Let me go into Silph Co and save the day. Let me, it's quite silly. It's so very different from some of the challenges that are given to you by, Blade. It's like, go into the Pokemon Mansion, find the key I hid in. That's so much different from going to the game center, find the Switch, go down and trounce all of Team Rocket. Go ahead. Show them your moves, right? And I love these games. I'm not going to deny that I don't love the Pokemon games in general. If I didn't love them so much, I wouldn't be playing them to this day, and I'd be excited for new games and some of the new features and all that kind of stuff when it seems like they're making a change or when they're trying something that might be fun to play. But I appreciated the idea that people recognized you as a child in Sword and Shield, which people don't really recognize you as being young in the other games for the most part. It's overlooked a lot of times in the vein of your heroics. As such, I would say that story-wise, I think Sword and Shield are probably the most believable in how people act in the world. The second most believable, and just in general, would probably be the original FireRed and Leaf Green games, right? Where you have a mafia based around using Pokemon to, commit thefts and crimes and all that kind of stuff, because that's something that you would see happen in real life. So if you combine the two of them, where you have a game where you're meant to be a kid and on an adventure and learning about the world, while there is some evil organization running around in the background using Pokemon to commit acts of thievery and violence and crime, that would be a super believable story. Part of me is glad that they don't do that. As I said, even though the immersion is kind of ruined by the lack of doing so, I think overall, though, the stories do well with the child protagonist type of deal. And so even though I've been talking about the lack of immersion and the reasons why the child protagonist is silly to me, this is not me descrying the child protagonist and saying it shouldn't be something that's in there. And regardless of why I like Sword and Shield so much with the adults looking after you, I think a lot of these Pokemon games would not be as fun if you weren't the hero. If you didn't go around saving the world for the most part, a lot of these games would fall flat on their face, because the center of the story is surrounding the concept of you being a hero so very much. I think that we'll probably see the same basic idea in Scarlet and Violet of the child protagonist being the hero. Super excited to see what those games are about, but until they come out, just got my theories. Anyways, for now, farewell. Be happy, be healthy, and I'll see you guys next time on Pokemon FireRed. Bye!